it automatically taps into the Wi-Fi when I have it on. I had the Wi-Fi on, so I just turned the Wi-Fi off, hoping it would reconnect and stay good. So it should be good for now. Okay, so good evening, good morning, good afternoon, YouTubers. This is Jerry Diamond with How to Get Out of Babylon, and I'm going to be reading the second book in the Spirit Flyer series because we're going to get deeper into the deeper world and spiritual warfare. So I hope people listen to this. I don't know. I only got 3 regular listeners. That's not too good. I mean, I'm glad you guys are on here. Those of you who do sign in. Zapton Kaboom, Ray, and Gaddy Anton, and I think that's it. And y'all got wrenches, so anybody signs in with any porn, just dump it. Leave one. If there's multiple ones, just leave one for me to look at. I'll delete it when I get off of when I finish reading. We're gonna read chapter 1. It's called "The Bike Came Back" on its own. The bike came back to the boy. This boy. Like I said, there's a movie called A Dog and His Boy. The Dog and His Boy, or something like that. Science fiction story is kind of cute. But okay, so hey, by the way, I got a strike against my channel. First time ever that I know of, but I don't remember ever getting a strike before. Whatever a strike is, I got a strike. So if I get another one, they could shut my channel down. So you'll get a second one, and that'll solve my problem for me. I'll quit. So pray about it. That's very sorry that after I announced last night that I was thinking about quitting, that I get a strike against my channel for whatever reason. It doesn't. I just saw it. I don't know if it's true. I don't know how to find out. I went to YouTube Studio a couple times. That's where it showed up, but I don't see no evidence of it. No nothing. I don't know why. How, whatever, what it was for. Don't know. So anyway, all right. So be that as it may, and Providence, I believe God's in control of things. So if He shuts my channel down, yippee-ki-yay, I'll be happy. Not really, but 20 years of work down the toilet, whatever. Doesn't seem like anybody cares anyway. So okay, so the bike came back. Chapter 1. Some things don't add up. Once there was a town where everyone was so busy counting things that they forgot what really counted. Centerville was a small, friendly town. There were many friendly grown-ups and friendly children. There were even friendly dogs and cats and a few friendly horses. Life was fairly peaceful in Centerville, but things were changing. Toward the end of the summer, the old factory on the west end of town opened back up. Goliath Industries were the new owners. People were moving into Centerville, something that hadn't happened for a long, long, long time. In fact, so many new people were moving into town that new houses were being built for the first time in 20 years. The Bailey family was one of the first families to arrive. The big moving truck was parked in front of a house on Oak Street. The Saturday morning was warming up quickly since it was the first week of August, the hottest time of the year in Centerville. The last box was rolled out of the moving truck. Upstairs in the house, Daniel Bailey was unpacking boxes in his new room when he heard his mother yell out his name. Something about the tone of her voice didn't sound right. The boy moved with a noticeable limp across his room and out into the hallway. Daniel held carefully onto the railing as he went downstairs. "Hold it right there, young man," Mrs. Bailey said at the bottom of the steps. She put her hands on her hips and blocked his way. Daniel stopped. He looked at his mother's stern face, then looked down at his sneakers. Only his mother, he thought, could make you feel guilty even before you were accused. "I want to show you something," Mrs. Bailey said. "Okay," Daniel said curiously. He brushed his hand through his bright red hair. The boy had startlingly clear green eyes and a face full of freckles. He followed his mother into the garage. When he saw the old red bicycle, the boy's eyes lit up and a huge smile crossed his face. "It came," he cried. He squatted down, running his hands over the metal, checking for damage. The bike, though old, appeared to be okay. Below the handlebars were 3 golden crowns linked together, and the middle bar in flowing white letters was the name Spirit Flyer. Daniel pushed up the kickstand and rolled the big bike back and forth. The Spirit Flyer's big balloon tires rolled easily. Though the bike was something of an antique, it was still in very usable condition. An old cracked mirror was fastened to the handlebars, along with a big horn with a rubber bulb, a gearshift lever, a gauge that looked something like a speedometer, and a large headlight. A small bottle-shaped generator was attached to the metal frame that held the back tire. He hopped on and pedaled in a small circle in the driveway. Daniel couldn't stop smiling. He was so happy to see the old bike. You would have thought it was an old friend, which in a way it was. He then rolled it back into the garage, parking it next to another bike that was already resting on its kickstand. The other bike couldn't have been more different from the old red bike. It was a new, sleek 10-speed, shining with gold metallic paint and black trim. The wheels were made of some of the strongest yet lightest alloy metal available. All the other metal parts were coated with enriched shiny chrome. On the middle bar, written in black letters, was the name Goliath Super Wings. Daniel didn't even seem to notice the new bike. He was still so surprised and happy to see the Spirit Flyer that he just kept smiling. But the smile left his freckled face when he saw his mother. She was standing on the lawn in her high heels talking to the moving men. Even though it was Saturday morning, she wore her high heels and skirt as if she were at work. His mom was always dressed up, he thought. Her black hair was combed into a bun and she had on her makeup. His 10-year-old sister Denise was standing next to his mom. Denise wore a green dress and good shoes. Daniel was wearing his frazzled old blue jeans, sneakers, and a ragged green t-shirt. He knew his mother did not approve, but he liked his old clothes because they were comfortable. Mrs. Bailey motioned for Daniel to come over. Denise was smiling. She sensed Daniel was in trouble, and she was enjoying every second of it. Bratty little kid. None of these men packed that bicycle in the truck, Mrs. Bailey said as Daniel walked over, and neither did Denise. So that leaves you. You deliberately sneaked that old bike on after I told you we would bring it later. Liar, liar. I didn't pack it, Daniel said truthfully. He looked at his mother's face. He didn't look away, or he knew she would think he was lying. Mrs. Bailey stared at Daniel in silence for a long time. Her mouth was one tight little line. The moving men got into the truck. The big truck roared into life and rumbled down the street. Then I suppose you're going to tell me it packed itself on the truck and rolled itself into the garage, Mrs. Bailey said. Well, it got here somehow, Daniel replied innocently. Maybe it just came by itself like when I first got it. Mrs. Bailey opened her mouth to reply, but seemed speechless. She stared at the bicycle uneasily for a moment, as if remembering something. Then she frowned at her son. Daniel, we are new to this town, and I hoped we would be getting off to a good start, Mrs. Bailey said. I know it's been hard on you children since the divorce, but you live with me, not your father, and you abide by my rules. I took the job with Goliath to get you kids out of the city and into a small town. Well, you aren't even unpacked, and you're already causing problems again with that stupid old bicycle. Didn't I get you a perfectly good, brand new Goliath bicycle? I didn't want another bicycle, Daniel said softly, but his mother wasn't listening. You live in a dream world with that old bike, and I don't like it, Mrs. Bailey said crossly. It's time you woke up. A little pretending is fine, but you're going way past that, and now you're lying about it. Well, I'm not lying, Daniel said. I didn't sneak it in the truck. The Spirit Flyer belongs to me, or you might say I belong to it. You just don't understand how a Spirit Flyer really... That's enough, Mrs. Bailey snapped. I'll make a decision about this later. We need to be over at the school athletic field in 10 minutes. What for, Daniel asked. School hasn't started yet. This is for the company sports league, Mrs. Bailey said. I told you all about it. Goliath Industries always sponsors the sports league as a gesture of community goodwill when they move into a town. This time it's a soccer league. Oh. We will assume that this picture is Daniel and his little sister, little niece, and he's the nephew or somebody. Hey, Ronnie. Moving right along. And this year it's a soccer league. I don't want to play, Daniel said. Now don't be difficult, Daniel, Mrs. Bailey said. You'll have fun, and they'll be giving away free toys as a promotion. But I don't want to play soccer, Daniel said. You have to run the entire time. Dr. Baker said you are perfectly able to run now, Mrs. Bailey said, but I still limp all over the place. I'll look like a cripple out there. Don't say cripple, Mrs. Bailey said. You have to have a positive attitude, Daniel. You have a slight limp from an unfortunate accident, that's all. You can do everything the other kids do. That's easy for you to say, Daniel replied softly. He had his same argument with his mother before, and he had always lost, and knew he was going to lose again. You used to be the captain of your old soccer team, a real superstar, don't you remember, Mrs. Bailey asked. She looked off in the distance for a moment as if she were looking back to a better time in life. I know, I remember. I was so proud of you then. You'll get your confidence back. That's all that's holding you back. Daniel started to say something else and then stopped. He knew it was no use. His mother was in a dream world of her own, he thought. She always wanted things to be the way they used to be before the accident. Since she was already mad because of the spirit flyer, he just kept quiet. Mrs. Bailey locked up the house and garage. As they drove off, Denise and his mother were talking excitedly in the front seat. Daniel slouched down in the back. Every child in town will be signing up for the sports league, Mrs. Bailey told Daniel, looking at him in the rearview mirror. This will be a good way to meet people. Besides, it wouldn't look right if the children of Goliath's personnel manager didn't participate in the events sponsored by the company. That's the most important reason. That's the most important reason, isn't it? Daniel said. Mrs. Bailey glared at her son. Listen to me, Daniel Bailey. Mr. Daniel Bailey, she said. I know it's not easy to move to a new place and make new friends. But Goliath Industries pays the bills around here, and there's nothing wrong in showing a little appreciation and cooperation. To get along, you've got to go along. Got it? Daniel just nodded and sat quietly the rest of the way to the school. The parking lot at the Centerville school was packed. Daniel didn't think so many people could possibly live in Centerville. But then he lived on farms around the town. Daniel had never known anyone who lived on a farm. He had lived in a city or the suburbs his entire life. Mrs. Bailey got out of the car and immediately smiled and waved at someone she knew.